This is Derrick, two-time Super Bowl champion. You're listening to Matt and Dexter on The Grueling Truth.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, brought to you by mybookie.ag. I'm your host, Matt Andruscavage. I'd like to welcome in my co-host after following another 49er win. To talk about it, welcome, everybody, Dexter Carter.
Hey, Matt, how you doing? Hope you had a great weekend, especially after this win, and looking forward to another great show with you, my man.
Oh, same here. I did have a great weekend, and it's been a lot of fun. Hope it was just as fun for you.
Oh, absolutely. A weekend of football is always a good thing, especially when my favorite teams win.
That's right. So I know Florida State ended up getting a new coach, and so I know you're always excited about what's going on with your alma mater, and then also the 49ers.
Oh, absolutely. Man, the last few weeks has been quite interesting for me, and everybody does know the story about Florida State, and, who thought, starting the season that Florida State would have a new coach and the whole process would take its course as it did, and Florida State would, be probably the most wanted job in the country. Florida State ended up getting their guy, their man, Willie Taggart, which I think is going to be a great move, and he fits well with Florida State. And Florida State will continue producing great players for the NFL, continuing to show that they've got top talent every year. So, I think, as we've talked before, the 49ers probably may snatch up one of those talents this year, but that's another topic for another segment of our show. But the 49ers, we won, and Garoppolo continued to show the promise that we thought that he had for, this team. And, again, we'll talk about it later, but, Hyde performed in a way in which I thought he should perform. So we'll go more in detail with that too. So, another win in the win column for the 49ers.
Yeah, that's what's really awesome about this. I mean, if you think about this, this is now 3 wins in the last 4 weeks. And who'd have thought that after that start?
Absolutely. And what's interesting is, not only, did Garoppolo lead the 49ers, to their is it the third victory of the season, but I didn't know this, but the team hasn't won a back-to-back home games for the first, since 2014. That doesn't mean, it doesn't look like it means a whole lot right now, but as they continue to progress and get better at the key positions, you begin to see these type things happen. It doesn't look great on paper other than knowing that it happened, but he is making this team play better. That's what leadership does, whether it's vocal or whether it's performance-wise or whether it's both. His performance is raising the level of all those that can play better. And what happens in this situation is those sore thumbs start beginning to become exposed. Those sore thumbs, which I'm speaking of, is those moves that will be made in the offseason, those positions that are in jeopardy of being lost or will be lost and look to be filled with new talent. It becomes to be exposed in these type situations. Even though we win, those positions are glaring as far as need to be replaced, so the team can be an entire team as a whole playing as a unit, and I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think that as well. When you watch games like this and the quarterback, like, all right, this past Sunday against the Texans, you watch the level of which Garoppolo is playing. I mean, there was an interception in there, but overall, you look at his numbers and over 300 yards, touchdown, And just it's not really all about the numbers right now, although those are nice. To me, it's what he does when he's standing in the pocket, how quickly he gets to his second read and then just has the accuracy and such a nice release that he can get the ball to a receiver in a tight window coming off his first read into his second read in a very, very short time period. It's really something to see. So when you see that happening, the offense getting better, all of a sudden the weaknesses of the team really start to stand out because now you're seeing some quality play out of some players, and then when it doesn't happen, all of a sudden it's standing out. I mean, the first guy that comes to my mind is Dante Johnson. I liked him as a rookie, but he's just been getting killed all year long, and the one thing that Houston had going for them this weekend was, of course, their star receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, who would be, if he ever became a free agent, that would be my free agent crush, because if we ever got a guy like DeAndre Hopkins to go with Jimmy Garoppolo, that would just be great. But Dante Johnson's just getting killed out there. It's really hard to see him back next year.
Right. And, you hit on Johnson as well as you could and as much, as needed. I don't need to, elaborate on that. What I will elaborate on is one thing the 49ers need to do, and I believe they will. I think there's about 13 key free agent wide receivers this year. They need to look and see who can fit a DeAndre Hopkins mold on this 49er team, because I'm going to mention some receivers and what they've done here in a minute since Garoppolo has taken over. But
excellent. I'm excited. I can't wait to hear this.
Absolutely. But they still need to bring in, there's about 13 of them that they've got to go and evaluate, and they've got to say who can be that guy. Because when you have Garoppolo, who you take the two starts he's had here, then you take the two starts that I think he's had 4 NFL starts. The ones in New England and the ones here, and the dude is 4-0. And
yeah.
That's because the guy knows how to win. Here in 2 games, he's got 637 passing yards because he is understanding how to utilize. I mean, look at all these guys that really – now, Marquise you saw some flashes here and there. But, Goodwin, Taylor, Selleck.
Yeah.
And I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but Kyle
Juszczyk.
I mean, these guys are running the same routes they did before. But Garoppolo is knowing how to find them. He knows how to place the ball. He knows the timing of where to put this ball for these guys to be able to catch the ball uninhibited by the defense. I mean, that is just incredible. You take somebody like Deshaun Watson, this game would have been a little different, but it would have been a good battle between Watson, and Garoppolo. But you find Watson, a young player who has adjusted really well and knows how to utilize, and they're using his talent very wise on that team. Well, Garoppolo is still a young guy, but Garoppolo is able to learn. I mean, you take the playbook. I'm sure they hadn't thrown the playbook at him yet, which means when they do, this offense is going to be even more dangerous. But he's been able to take the little bit of the playbook that they've been able to expose to him, and he's been able to grasp, and he's been able to throw players open. He's been able to show that cool demeanor, that Tom Brady-like demeanor right there in that pocket, to where we talked the last show. He makes the offensive line looks like they're better, but they're the same line. But he's able to maneuver in that pocket, step up, get away from that pressure to make their job easier. And that, I'm telling you, that is so exciting, to see week in and week out since he's taken over the reins of this offense and this team. 20 of 33, I believe, this last game for 334.
Yeah.
Touchdown. And, interceptions are going to happen at times. So he had an interception. But overall, what? The team did enough based on his, I believe, inspirational play and just physical play that he has done, where it's inspiring this team, this organization, this fan base, the guys like us that do this show, But one thing I'm most proud of, with you and I, is that I could look back at show week after week before Garoppolo took over and after Garoppolo, took over and all of that. Things that we have talked about because we've been around the game, we know the game. You've looked at it from a fan's perspective. I've looked at it from a player's perspective and a coach's perspective. And these things are coming to fruition because it's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. It's football. It's understanding the dynamics of, one, the team, the individuals out here, and week in and week out performance and what needs to be done to make this team better. And I'm telling you, the pieces of the puzzle are coming together, but none are as important as a quarterback. When you have that guy at quarterback performing and firing on all cylinders like Garoppolo is doing, man, it gets prettier and prettier week after week. And this offseason, again, is going to be so key. And the team that goes into this next preseason is going to be so different than the team that went into this previous preseason. And the 49ers are not that far away from being back to a competitive stage to where, one, they get into the playoffs. And once you get into the playoffs, it's another whole ball game. It's anybody's opportunity to go to the Super Bowl at that point. And next year is coming.
Oh, man. I feel like I'm ready to jump out of my pew and say, preach it. You are on point. There's just a level of excitement. There's so much to say right now. I mean, first of all, I'm so happy we can go into social media groups, and the bickering among the fans is really, really down. Everyone's like on the same page, excited. There's no arguing. It's just so nice. I guess just having a quarterback gets rid of all that. But there's so much excitement right now because, like you said, once the quarterback situation is solidified and under control, and right now, I know that we still got to take a look at a small sample size, but the writing's on the wall. This guy's a good quarterback, and if this works out where he's the guy, all of a sudden you can put all your resources into just building a roster around him. And we're not even. I mean, look what he's working with. I mean, I love Marquise Goodwin. Marquise Goodwin has had a really, really tough career. He's had a lot of injuries. This year, he lost his infant son before a game, and he's just going out balling every week. Guys, in a season like this, with 3 different quarterbacks and so many question marks, he's on the verge of a 1,000-yard season. That is tremendous, in my opinion, for a guy who's just not had a breakout season yet. And then you look at guys like Trent Taylor and Garrett Selleck. Look what Garoppolo's working with. These are good players, but wait till when one of these guys on your list of 13 gets put around them. Then what could happen? So there's just so many things possibly coming together. And like you said, next year's off season is really going to be exciting because now you're going to add another draft and all that money they got in free agency to bring in the right guys to put around them. Next year, they're not going to be going through an evaluation season with a stopgap quarterback. Now it's year one of, hey, let's start building a championship.
Absolutely. And what's interesting, just imagine the 49ers had about 6 games that they lost by 2 or 3 points, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now just imagine the difference, the outcome of those games if Garoppolo would have been at the helm.
Oh, my goodness.
So what I'm saying, the team in general was performing on fumes, meaning to me, it means they were on the excitement of a new head coach, a limited playbook. Guys have yet to really step up and start separating themselves from a performance perspective. So they were winning just on the fact of, new coach, new start, just trying to create a new standard, okay? Now, all of a sudden, you've got Garoppolo coming in, and what he has done in my opinion, he's finding a way to win. I say he, but he's the leader. Week by week, I mean, you got a group of guys. And again, let me go back for a second. I know I heard a lot of talk about Houston, had some guys down and, even some starters that fought through injury. Well, last I knew, the 49ers still had the most guys on IR in the entire NFL.
For sure.
So to even fight through that, and to find ways to even be close in those 6 games, now all of a sudden you got a quarterback, who's finding a way to either put the team in a position like last week where it took a field goal to win the game. But the field goal kicker's having, in my opinion, he's having a great year. Okay? And then this week we didn't need, we didn't need a field goal to win the ball game, but they're finding ways to win. Guys are stepping up, and it's huge for this 49er team. But it's because of the leadership of Garoppolo. So, I think if they just keep taking this momentum and keep building on it and finding ways to keep plucking away, and, again, the keys that we talked about early in the season, doesn't matter what level of football it is. Now I was going to say converting on third downs, you got to win, first downs. You got to have 4 or 5 yards on first down, so you be in good, a good situation to, convert third downs. But what's interesting about the 49ers this past week, their third down conversion rate was terrible. It was like 2 or 14. But what's interesting is when you have a quarterback, though, that you're getting first downs on second downs a lot, there is no third down conversions because you're converting, So Garoppolo is finding ways to keep the ball moving down the field and just not, and just not, those third down conversions that they're failing on isn't killing them. Now, once they start converting those third down conversions and continue to move the ball on those other downs and win those first downs, again, this is a year. Finish up these last 3 games, continue to build on what they built on and keep the basis of any great offense or great defense, because we still want to be a team that let defense win championships, and let the offense win, the regular season games. And I think they're going to continue building that defense, but this offense, key on those third downs, winning that first down, scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Now, we'll take those field goals, but again, I know fans may get tired of me saying it, but it's the basis of winning. You've got to score touchdowns in the red zone. You've got to end every drive with a kick. Hey, if we can't get a first down, we punt. Hey, if we can drive down to the red zone, can't score a touchdown, then let's kick the ball, let's get a field goal. So those are the basics of what I think, you win ball games and get get your team in the playoffs and have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. So that's where they're going for next year. Right now, 3 more games to go. Continue building on it. Hey, we may not have the second or third top draft pick, but if we can finish the season 5-0 and still be in position to get one of the top 7 or 8 players in the league, and I believe Derwin James will still fall to that level or that spot, I think we're still going to be in a great position. So I'm going to leave it up to the guys who are good at this. Shanahan, Martin Mayhew, and Lynch. They're going to make sure we get quality draft picks. I think we're one of the top 2 spots as far as money, to pay free agents and sign draft picks. I think we've got about as much money as anybody. So we're in a great position to be wonderful and awesome when the offseason comes.
Oh, man, you know it. I mean, this offseason is going to be amazing. I just look at, like what you said, these last 2 wins, even though Garoppolo, like last week we talked about, Garoppolo's driving them down to the red zone penalties, took them out of the red zone. They had to, but you talked about, they settled for field goals, and it was enough to win the game. This past Sunday, they got off to a rough start, but the defense was able to hold Houston to 3 points. And then, the Niners were able to get up 10-3 off a 52-yard field goal, and then he converted a couple other ones. So that kicking game, even though they don't score in the red zone every time, that kicking game has been so vital, and they're able to get something out of those drives. But then having a guy like Garoppolo who can finish drives and who did finish a couple of drives that ended in the end zone was critical. So it's so nice to see some sense of stability and at the quarterback position. And Kyle Juszczyk, first of all, he was huge on one drive where he caught 2 passes for almost 60 yards and kept the drive going. But then he came out after the game and said that Jimmy Garoppolo has been everything and more than they thought he would be, and he is an absolute leader on this team, and that is what they need. Some sense of leadership with these younger players, and as they're trying to get this off the ground, having leadership and someone who can just take command of the situation. And now that they've got that, and I know that they're going to build on the defense. I can't wait to see. I know who the cornerstone of the defensive line is. DeForest Buckner. The cornerstone in the linebacking core is Reuben Foster. I can't wait to see who's going to end up being the cornerstone in the secondary, because it's going to happen. And once that defense comes together, there will be a complete team, and they're going to be tough to beat. So it's going to be fun to watch. I think, like you said, you finish strong this year. You don't worry about where you fall in the draft. Then you just take best available, or you move down and acquire more picks. I totally trust this front office. I think they're going to. I totally believe they're going to build a winner, and we're going to have a good time this rest of this season, no matter what happens. They got a winnable game this Sunday, 2 difficult games after that, but I think they're going to play hard. They're not giving up. They're really trying to win these games, and then once that off season comes, there's going to be so much excitement after the draft and free agency.
Oh, it certainly is, and there are so many positive moves that they can make to make this team better. And, I just keep reflecting back to it takes one key move on defense, and then some free agents. But and I keep throwing his name out there, but the Jacksonville Jaguars, what they did in their evaluation process when they brought in the cornerback from Florida State, the difference he has made in not 2 years, but last year, which was his rookie year, Ramsey. I mean, I think I keep mentioning Derwin James, and I still believe that. But I'm going to tell you, there's another key player that I think, if they're able to get him, could make a big difference. But Kirkpatrick for Alabama is a big-time player. Big-time player. I think other than the 2 key moves this year, it's got to be getting Garoppolo a number 1 receiver. And there are these guys that I keep talking about, these free agents that we're going to talk more on it, in later shows. But just imagine what Garoppolo is doing with these Taylor and there goes my concussion syndrome.
Goodwin,
thank you. Just imagine how they're performing, and they aren't even number 1s. I mean, right. He has almost 1,000 yards receiving, as you stated earlier. He's not even a number 1. So just imagine when we do bring in a number 1, and these other guys are able to fill their roles that they're doing now, but be able to do it in the true role that they should be in, a second, a third receiver, and then a great tight end who can catch the ball. The sky is the limit. This is what I like talking about. I like talking about these type of things when you could see it coming to fruition and putting the pieces of the puzzle in the right place. But the biggest key, is obviously, Garoppolo. And after that, all the other pieces of the puzzle seem to become more clear and come into focus on how you can make this team truly a quality team on the field week in and week out.
No doubt about it. I got to tell you, you got to tell me at least some of these 13 names. I want to hear your thoughts on potential number one wide receivers before we get to the Titans preview.
Oh, well, you know what? Yes, I'm looking at a lot of them because, see, some of them, signed, deals here recently. But I'm going to throw some out there, and this will adjust because
right. I won't hold you to this.
yeah, don't. I tell you what. Before the end of the show, we're going to jump on it. Let's continue. But I'm compiling because some of these I compiled about 4 during the season, and some of them have signed extensions. Kind of like Larry Fitzgerald. He was
right.
Free. He ended up signing that 1-year deal.
Right, like Alshon Jeffrey. Yeah.
Right, Jeffrey. He was available, and all of a sudden, he just signed this big deal. So, somebody, now one other one I think will be key, who all of a sudden came from Buffalo to the Rams, and just not necessarily rejuvenized, but he was playing well even in Buffalo. He just had a few injuries, but he's got over there with golf, and he's playing extremely well. And I don't think he signed a new deal, but somebody like Sammy Watkins,
Yep.
And I'm gonna tell you what, somebody who hadn't signed yet, Allen Robinson, out of Jacksonville.
Yes.
Now,
very, very good. I like him.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Allen Robinson. Before he got hurt, and he'll come back healthy. But before he got hurt, I'm telling you, Jacksonville was on the verge. And he was doing that with Bortles playing terrible.
Yep.
And since we're talking, I'm gonna go ahead because again, don't hold me to it because some of these here hadn't. I don't think these have signed any. Now Jimmy Graham's gonna be possibly available. With Seattle. You got Devontae Adams out of Green Bay.
Yep.
Young, talented receiver. Pittsburgh Steelers, Martavius Bryant. He possibly may be available. Now, one that's going to be interesting, and I thought about this when he came out of college and they changed his position. And I'm, for one, being honest, you can always take a quarterback and move him to a receiver, but you don't know how good that guy's going to be. This is a guy that he played like a number one with Cleveland. You know who I'm talking about?
I do. Terrell Pryor.
I'm telling you, he has really played like a number one. Yeah,
I think he's had some injury problems this year, but when he was playing, especially last year, he looked really good.
Yeah. But that's only about 8. And you take away the few that signed new deals, there's still about 8 or 9 really good guys that we'll talk more about. But those are just a few, that could possibly be a number one. But there are some other bigger names too. But we'll get to those at another time.
Sounds good. That's exciting. I mean, any of those guys giving Garoppolo a weapon like that would be amazing. That would really add a lot. It opens things up underneath for the tight ends like Kittle and Garrett Selleck, opens things up in the slot for guys like Trent Taylor, and really makes it harder to send any kind of double team to stop Goodwin. And Goodwin's the guy that can blow the top off of defense, so then you've got to really watch him, and you can't just double up a number one. So once they get a number one in there, it's just totally going to change that offense. And they're still going to have Pierre Garçon back next year.
Absolutely. And, and getting off the wide receivers for a moment, because you and I were very on point. We were very detailed. We were very specific in our expectations of Carlos Hyde. If he is a number one running back, he has to step up and be the guy. And for what he did last week with 14 carries and got 75 yards, that's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
For him to step up like that and get 75 hard-earned, yards, out of those 14 carries, Carlos, we appreciate it. That's the type of effort you need to do week in and week out, with blocking, without blocking, so you can give defenses something other to focus on than getting to Garoppolo and defending Garoppolo. It changes the playbook for Kyle Shanahan. And what Kyle wants to do with this offense and opening it up, these two running backs, Matt and Carlos Hyde, are very, very important. They have got to be what Atlanta's version of Freeman and Coleman.
No question. Carlos Hyde, I think that 31-yard run right before the half was huge because you know how it is. You've been in those situations where you get the ball, a team scores with very little time left before the half, and you have enough time to run the play. You don't want to just kneel the ball. You want to run a play and kind of feel the defense out and give yourself an idea of what's realistic to start taking some risks downfield. And when you can rip off a 31-yard run on the first play and get out of bounds, that totally changes your perspective on how you're going to attack the defense and give yourself a chance to put up some points right before the half. And that's what they were able to do. It was very, very critical because they won by 10 points, and because they were able to get that field goal before the half and then get a later score, it was able to move that lead to double digits and make it really tough on Houston. So Carlos Hyde's 31-yard run was huge, and he had a touchdown run, which was nice because he was stopped at the line and was able to, on a second effort, break to the outside and get a score. And he had a couple other pretty good runs. So it was a good effort, something my friend Ray Palmer would say, worthy of the 49ers uniform.
Hey, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know we're going to get to other things to talk about, but I'm gonna say this so you can ponder this for our next show and any I guess comments from social media that want to talk about or give us input on these free agent receivers. Hey, we welcome that too. But this is a complete list of the 2018 free agent wide receivers, and some of them are going to be repetitive of what I said earlier. But this is a complete list. We've got Terrell Pryor, Mike Wallace, who still can play, Sammy Watkins, Eric Decker, Harry Douglas, Taylor Gabriel, Trey Burton, Dontrell Inman from Chicago, Kamar Aiken, Kendall Wright, Jaron Brown, Andre Roberts, Matthew Slater, Albert Wilson, Danny Amendola. And you know what's interesting about Danny is you can take Danny and those guys that New England throw into their receiving corps or anywhere on their team, and they just seem to play. And I always wonder, can they go to another team and perform that way? Garoppolo is familiar with him. Maybe that'll be a good thing. I don't think he's a number one, but I think, if he plays anything like he did, coming up with key catches at key moments and just outperforming what I think he can do, Danny could be good in that type of situation. Then you got Charles Johnson, Carolina, Michael Floyd in Minnesota, Marquise Lee. Now, Marquise Lee with Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. He's interesting.
Finally started balling this year. So Jacksonville is either going to pay up, or he's going to want to get back on the West Coast because he's a USC kid. Then you got Jordan Matthews with Buffalo, Michael Campanaro with Baltimore, Paul Richardson with Seattle, Bryce Butler, at Dallas. Now, Bryce Butler is interesting. He played at USC too, and his father is Bobby Butler that played at Florida State and played with the Atlanta Falcons at cornerback for many, many years. And he never really stood out at USC, but he freaking made it to the league and has been, playing well for Dallas. He has a role, there with the Dallas Cowboys, but he's a free agent. Brandon Tate, Eric Williams, Devontae Adams, who we talked about, which I think is probably one of the top three. Cody Latimer, Lewis Murphy, Allen Robinson, Jacksonville Jaguars, which I think is a big-time player. Jarvis Landry, who's a big-time player, Brian Quick, Justin Hunter, Josh Bellamy, Jeremy Kelly, Deontay Thompson. I got a few more. Dante Moncrief, John Brown, T.J. Jones, Brendan Burson, DeAnthony Thomas. Now, he's interesting, too, because he played at Oregon. And
Kansas City, right?
Yeah, he's at Kansas City. Played at USC, right? No, played at Oregon. Yeah, played at Oregon. But Nick Williams, Britton Golden, Tavares King, Ryan Grant, Jeff Janis, and Kalen Clay. So some of these they may not be a household name, but all we need to do is take the top 5 or 6, and we need to, really see if they fit into Kyle Shanahan's, system. And what I like is I trust Kyle to look at these guys, and he can visualize inserting these guys that fit what fit his system. And I think, immediately they'll come in and Garoppolo will make them a number 1.
Yeah, I'm going to say, the list was there's a lot of names there. I'd say a few of them we'd probably agree that probably not. Pretty tough to. Some of these guys may not even be on a roster next year. But most of those, even if they're not bona fide number 1 receivers, like I like the guys that the one guy that I would want would be Allen Robinson. Sammy Watkins would be interesting, just because then you're also taking them away from your division rival. But there's a few guys in there that this is what I like about Kyle Shanahan's offense. It doesn't just utilize the top 2 receivers and the slot guy. He's bringing guys in and out. You watch what he did in Atlanta. They had a fleet of wide receivers over there. And he would use almost all of them, kind of like the way George Seifert would use defensive linemen.
Yeah, you're
First
absolutely
team,
right.
second team, third team. He's almost got like that going on in his system. So a guy like Danny Amendola might on the surface be like, well, why would we want him? Isn't he a little older? He's a veteran wide receiver who knows how to find spots in zones. He knows how to get open in key moments. He would be really interesting with a guy like Trent Taylor, kind of like the way Chris Hogan is right now with Julian Edelman and Amendola in New England. That's a possibility. And then you look on the back end on that 4th and 5th, maybe even 6th wide receiver, a guy like Ryan Grant in Washington. He would be a very effective 4th wide receiver. But I think Allen Robinson would be tremendous at the 1. You'd have the possibility of bringing Pierre Garçon back. You still got your deep threat in Marquise Goodwin, a slot guy in Trent Taylor, and then you just try to fill in the back end because Kyle Shanahan's going to use the whole complement of wide receivers. So lots of possibilities for next year.
I totally agree with you because, although many names were mentioned, we really only need to bring in 1, max 2.
Yeah.
As long as we get.
And then there's the draft.
Absolutely. Oh, that's right. Then there's the draft. See how you have to keep me straight? You know what? Yeah, we still got the draft. But I think that number 1 has got to come from that free agent crop, and we get him
overall probably.
Absolutely, because these numbers, what I consider 2 and 3 right now with Taylor and Goodwin, those guys are bona fide, in my opinion, developing into a great 2 and 3. So you're good. You're good, and then see what happens, through the draft after that.
Oh, definitely. It depending on what they do, they may not break the bank this year on the number 1 in the free agency. If they don't, then the only thing that I can think of is that they would bring in a veteran, maybe a guy like a Terrell Pryor, a Ryan Grant, someone who maybe we're looking to fill in on the back end, like a number 4 receiver, but then they're probably going to target one of the top wide receivers in the draft to bring in behind Garçon and Goodwin and get him acclimated to the system, and maybe kind of like what Pittsburgh did with Martavis Bryant, because they already had guys around him, and then they just kind of worked him into the offense, and he just blew past everybody with his speed. They might end up hopefully being able to do something like that if they can't get a top wide receiver in the free agent market. But either way, I got to believe the receiving core that they have right now is going to be vastly improved next year.
Right, and the one key factor for vastly improvement is, and this is what's going to make San Francisco a destination now. All of a sudden, you got a quarterback that number one receiver would want to come catch for. So that's really, really exciting for Kyle Shanahan right now, because there will be a bona fide number one want to come to San Francisco, Santa Clara, because they've got a quarterback that they know is cool under pressure and throws that ball silky smooth and throws it where it needs to be caught. So, one, he can get yardage after the catch, or put it in a hole to where he's not going to get blown up. So, Garoppolo, man, he's not only improving the quarterback position, but he's improving the value of that team and that organization.
And I also got to probably change my stance a little bit on Jarvis Landry. This name had come up in conversation with a couple of friends of mine, and I was kind of like, I don't know about Jarvis Landry. But, this was well before we ever got Jimmy Garoppolo. Jarvis Landry, with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing to him as opposed to Ryan Tannehill, Jay Cutler, and Matt Moore, that's all of a sudden a different story. That Jarvis Landry could be the number one guy. Devontae Adams, he's had the drops. He's been on and off, but overall he's a really, really good talent. He would be interesting, and obviously Allen Robinson. If they could get one of those three guys to pair with Goodwin and then fill in the back end with the drafts or maybe another free agent, all of a sudden you've got an Atlanta-type receiving core from last year.
Absolutely. This is not too far away from looking very, very similar from a skill set position than what Kyle Shanahan has came from. And once again, that's his template. He developed that. He put those pieces together. So he's just being patient, and he's putting the pieces together very methodically, knows what he's doing, and the results aren't going to be surprising to him. He's just trying to find the parts to fit his system, and that's what he's doing.
Right. So no question about it. I mean, these are these things that we'll talk about as we progress through the rest of this season, and we'll be doing some off-season stuff as well. So we'll be previewing different positions of need and trying to get an idea. Because remember last year, what did we do last year? At the last show of the regular season, we spent a good amount of time talking about, all right, it's time for Chip Kelly to go. It's time for Trent Baalke to go. Who you want? And while the GM was kind of up in the air, there was a lot of names, we both agreed right away that one guy we thought could change the culture and the offense and give them a chance at getting this whole thing turned around was Kyle Shanahan. So, and that ended up happening. And so hopefully we can pull out some really good names and make some good predictions that end up coming true for the off season.
Absolutely. We got our wish. I think majority of the people got their wish, and I don't think, regardless of what the record is right now, I don't think any of us are disappointed. This is always a moving pendulum, and we feel much better now than we did the day before we knew they got Garoppolo in. So you know what? They're behind the scenes making moves, and one, I can't complain about any of these moves they made thus far. So it's going to be exciting, to continue to see this train move forward and have these fans have reason to be excited again, after quite a number of years of post the Harbaugh tenure. So just hang in there. There's going to be a product put on the field that is going to make you very, very proud. You guys continue, filling, Levi Stadium, keep filling these sports bars across the country. Continue, watching, the team on TV and all those people that have talked bad over the last few years about the 49ers. You're going to have reason to be excited. And after 4 quarters of playing against their team, you're going to be excited to say, pay over that bet you bet me before. Hey, give me that money. Give it to me. So
that's right.
So, very, very positive outlook on the future.
No question about it. So we move into the last part of the show. Talk a little bit about the game coming up. They play the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee lost a road game last week to the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals have been battling injuries. They're on their third-string quarterback. Not the greatest football team, but they are a little scrappy at home. Tennessee, though they have the 8-5 record, I believe, I think their record might be a little bit better than their team. They've really struggled at times. I like the Niners' chances in this game. What do you feel might be one of the keys to winning this game?
Well, one, I want to see continuous improvement on all facets of the game. I would like to see special teams, return game, be a little more impactful on the game. I don't know if the right guys are in the right space right now or if the right guy moving forward next year is even on the roster. I'm not really sure. But I do know that Garoppolo is going to continue improving. The passing game is going to continue improving. The running game, I like them, the improvement of this last game. The offensive line is not going to get any worse. Garoppolo is going to continue to, make them look, better than they are. But I also got to give them some of that credit for Hyde 75 yards. So what it's doing is those guys, it makes you play better. It makes you more confident, and it makes your productivity even better. So the offense just needs to continue to do what they've been doing. The young guys, Foster needs to continue just to improve. I think Jacksonville is the leader in that AFC South, but Tennessee is always in the running. And Tennessee does not want to drop a game because they want to stay close to that Jacksonville Jaguar team. So they're going to come hard. Mariota is a very, very good quarterback. They have a good passing game, which doesn't say much for our secondary. So our secondary is going to be challenged again. So they're going to have to figure out a way. Robinson, they all got to figure out a way to step up and defend the pass. And then also think about Mariota, who can also pull that ball down and run and get good yardage. So he's one of those very good quarterbacks that's balanced, that can run, pass equally, and very smart. So, it's going to be a definite challenge for the 49ers. And but they just got to go in there. And if they can make the game a 2 or 3 point game, or put it in Garoppolo's hand to win at the end, or put it in the hands of our field goal kicker to win, then we're going to be in good shape. So defense is going to be key this game to keep the game close. Put it in a position, where they say defense win games. Well, defense need to put us in a position, to where we have a chance to win the game in the end. And if that happens, I'm always going to put my money on Garoppolo right now, the way the team is playing right now.
Yep, that's pretty much how I feel about it. I think the Niners need to see, like we talked about, more improvement out of that run game. You can tell the backbone of the Shanahan system is the pass. He likes to spread it around and make you pay on deep routes, or make you pay over the middle and take some shots downfield. But when that's effective, and now that the right guy is there to make it effective, man, your run game is so open. You can then gash the defense with some hard running by Hyde, and then a change of pace back like Matt Breida. So I think the run game, if that can continue to complement the pass game, I have no doubt the passing game is going to be fine. But if the run game can make Tennessee pay and make Tennessee think about bringing a safety close, then I think that's just going to change everything. And I think what they have to do defensively is just make sure that they don't get behind. Don't let Tennessee get up on them. If they can keep the game close, like you were saying, especially in that first half, weather that storm. Don't get beat on a big play by someone like Delaney Walker. Don't get beat, on a deep ball. If they can prevent a big play and kind of contain the run game, I think the second half they can put it in Garoppolo's hands and possibly get a win here. So I see a winnable game. Obviously, it's going to be tough because, like you said, Tennessee, I know they've got 2 really tough games at the end of the year. They're looking at this as probably a must-win if they want to make the postseason. So it's going to be a definite tough game, but it's a winnable game. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. I guess the synopsis of all of this is Garoppolo has, at this point, he's began to find guys that he sees a great matchup with, and what they're doing is they're learning to be trusted by Garoppolo, because when he finds these matchups, what he's doing over these last few games, they've learned his trust, because when he's throwing the ball to that open spot and he's throwing it on time, these guys recognize he's not going to throw them into a dangerous situation, then they're earning his trust and he's going to throw them the ball. So I think if that happens, you know what, the 49ers may not even come down to a field goal, but I think, we're talking about keys and we talk about offense a lot, but at the end of the day, these matchups are very, very key. And that's how Atlanta Falcons, put Julio Jones. And I'm not comparing our guys to Julio Jones, but he's finding these key matchups. But then Julio Jones has earned Matt his quarterback's
Matt
trust.
Ryan.
Exactly, yeah. Matt Ryan's trust. So that's what's happening right now with Garoppolo and these guys. And this is going to be key in this game. So, you know what, I think that 28 to 30 point average that Kyle Shanahan had coming into this season, you know what, it's actually in view. So if they can do that, I don't think Tennessee is going to be able to score, 25-plus points to beat the 49ers. The 49ers are able to score 28, 30 points.
So I like that. So this is a prediction. I like it.
No, not a prediction. Not a prediction. Just my opinion on what may happen.
He's like, no, don't even think about it. You're holding me to that.
Hey, you know what? That was a very, very close prediction, though. But no, I'm not going there. I'm saying what I believe that we have the capability, to get 28 points up on the board. And I don't think even with our corners playing their worst, man, I hope they can just fall and stumble into batting some balls down and defense and and defending the pass, against the Titans.
Sounds good to me. I think very, very real possibility. Niners get 28 to 31. I think they have a real good chance to win that game. So hopefully we'll see that. Hopefully we'll continue to see improvement on both sides of the football and keep the excitement going. It's going to be fun out in, the games will be played at home. And so hopefully the crowd is into it, and all the buzz and excitement just kind of carries over into the field. And we end up seeing a good game. So I'm liking it. I like the chances. So any final thoughts before we sign off for the day?
No, just we always talked about optimism, way back before there was anything to be optimistic about, and now there's true optimism in the direction that the team is going, and we're going to continue to be here, being realistic, being, analytical and telling the truth about what we see, and based on experience and, and giving you, the view from a player and a coach and the view from a fan. So continue supporting us, listen to the show, and we'll continue giving you the type of show that we think you deserve.
Well, amen to that. So I completely agree. I'm looking forward to the coming week, and we'll be back next week to discuss the game and preview. I believe they're playing Jacksonville next week, so that'll be interesting, and that's a little close to home for you. So we'll have a lot to talk about there, and probably explore another position or two and other off-season possibilities, and based on what happens this week. So we'll be back at it to give you as much quality Niner news as possible. So please go out to thegruelingtruth.net for all your sports news and articles and podcasts. So be sure to check that out. So for Dexter Carter, I'm Matt Andruscavage. You've been listening to the 49er Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, where the legends speak.